What famous person did you regret meeting because they were an A? I've met lots of celebrities due to my job and where I've worked. Most are just normal people. One that does stand out to me though is Barbara Streisand. She was staying in a hotel I used to work at and wanted a set of small steps leading up to her bed to be made so her dog could get up there. She also wanted a fresh roll of turf brought every day for her dog to piss on. On the flip side though, Britney Spears is not a sweetheart who comes across like she just wants peace and to be left alone. She used to like having flowers delivered to her room so she could make displays, etc. They were pretty good. I wouldn't say disappointing as I never was eager to meet him, but Drake was just unprofessional and egotistical when I worked with him both times. This was before he got big. First award show type level. He's told me to F off directly and I watched his mom calm him down from a tantrum. This is the most in character story I've read this entire thread. Jared Leto. I worshipped him as a teenager, mainly from seeing him in Requiem for a Dream and My So-Called Life and his band. But he was the most pretentious and arrogant person in real life. Never meet your heroes. I met James Brown back in the 80s when I lived in Vale. The man was dissatisfied with everything and generally drunk. Absolute flip side was meeting Mr. Rogers when I was at Pitt. That man was the real deal. He expected my seat on a plane. He was our local news anchor. Actually said, "I may look familiar." I said, "You're a merchant banker." The people with the smallest claim to fame are often the most egotistical about it. Jared Leto hit on my girlfriend at the time and called me fat. His brother Shannon was super nice though. To be fair, I am fat, but I knew that already. I used to work in a posh hotel in Canada, vague on purpose, and I had met many famous people during my time there. Most were forgettable interactions honestly, but one stands out as the absolute worst. Chevy Chase. He is a trash human being. He was totally miserable and insulting to all the staff, and we treated him with nothing but professional respect and courtesy. If I ever meet him again, I'll tell him to his face what a colossal piece of shit is. I can't watch his movie since. For the record, the best celebrity guest for me was Dave Grohl. He's an awesome guy. I once met Bill Burr at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. This was a little bit after his first Netflix special came out and I was a huge fan. Saw all the YouTube vids out at the time, including his famous Philly rant. Needless to say, I was starstruck when I saw him and couldn't really muster the courage to speak. He was talking to some people in the hallway and I didn't know how to ask for a picture without being rude. So I stood there with my girlfriend kinda looking his direction. Once he acknowledged us, my girlfriend asked him, "My boyfriend is a huge fan. May we take a photo?" At which point Bill said, "F no, I don't do pictures." My heart sank. Then he smiled and said, "No, I'm just kidding. Come here. Where would I be without you guys?" Then he motioned us in for a group photo and said, "Now let's put our arms around each other like we know each other." He totally made my week. Dude is awesome. I met a local weatherman from my neck of the woods twice. People love this dude on social media, but the both times I've seen him, he was a total a-hole. On the flip side, I met Emilio Estevez at work. He was cool. A famous soap opera star in my country. He came into the Dairy Queen I was working at. I didn't know who he was and my coworker started hyperventilating and went to the back. The guy was rude, and when I handed him his cone he said, "Is that all?" Like he expected extra because he was famous. Yeah dude, if you order one scoop you get one scoop. Didn't find out he was famous until he left and my coworker came back to the front. Beyonce's dad, jerk to wait staff. Snoop and his dad were awesome, though that, bar none, was and forever will be my favorite bartending gig. Reggie Jackson. He was a childhood idol of mine. I got the opportunity to get a photo with him at some booth at a trade show called Internet World years ago during the .com boom. No one was in line to get pictures with him, so I walked up to get a photo while he was apparently trying to get the girls in the next booth over to sleep with him. He acted all bugged that I asked for a photo, even though that is what he was hired for, and rolled his eyes. I guess he thought I cock-blocked him by just showing up in line to get a picture. I tossed the picture in the trash once I got it. Later that day I got a ball signed by Steve Garvey, who was super nice. He replaced Reggie Jackson as my hero that night. Met Danny DeVito on a trip to Nick a few years back. I told him I was a fan and that I wanted to boil his jockstrap and drink the broth. He told me to get in line. Probably only for British people, but my boyfriend saw Peter K with his bodyguard in a chippy. Didn't say anything but elbowed his brother. Peter K saw him and said, "Yeah, it is me. Now F off." Pretty harsh considering my boyfriend was only 11 at the time. I was the A. I saw Don Cheadle at an airport and was thinking about Ocean's 11 and said to my friend, "Dude, it's Bernie Mac," and he looked back and said, "No, I'm the other black guy from Ocean's 11, but at least you liked the movie." Met Kevin Costner and Clint Eastwood when they were filming near Austin. I was waiting tables. Costner was a jerk. Eastwood was amazing and a caricature of himself. He's huge, huge hands. The lines in his face are deeper than you think they are. But he was so polite and gentlemanly and gracious. Prince Andrew. Spent a lot of time around him about 10 years ago, as working at private social events he attended. The guy's a total prick. I met Will Ferrell at a movie premiere for a holiday movie. After the movie premiere there was a meet and greet, and the actors were lingering on the main floor. I introduced myself just to tell him what's up and that I enjoyed the movie. He looked at me with a side glance and stated, "Get away from me." I was 12 years old at the time. Ace Frehley of Kiss. It was at a rock and roll TV movie memorabilia convention in the mid-90s, shortly before the Kiss reunion, and he clearly didn't want to be there. He didn't talk to fans, didn't say hi, hell, he didn't even look at you when you came to his table. He just signed whatever you placed in front of him and then you were hustled away. On the other hand, Adam Batman West was at the next signing table and he was a totally cool guy. Shook hands, chatted with everyone, signed whatever we wanted, posed for pics, etc. Meeting him more than made up for Ace's early, hungover douchebaggery. Bobby Flay. We paid hundreds of dollars to go to a fancy event he was participating in. Waited for a long time to just meet him and say hi. He looked at us and walked away. Was a prick about it too. I met Shane Dawson at a restaurant I used to work at. He used to come in a few times a year with his fiancée and in-laws. He's a douche. None of my servers liked him or wanted to serve his family, and I damn near had to fight some little girls off the property because they would not leave without seeing him. When I was 6 or 7, Hulk Hogan pretend WrestleMania chased me out of a boardroom I wasn't supposed to be playing around in at Little League Complex, Cross Bayou in Pinellas County. Anyways, the story is my dad was coaching a game for my brother's team. I went to go sneak around in an empty room. Hulk's son played baseball there too and he must have seen me sneak in the room. I was hiding under the front desk when he came in with his Hulk voice, "Who's sneaking around in here?" and 7-year-old me nearly had a heart attack. He chased me out of the room while I snuck out acting like he couldn't see me. Looking back at it you can tell he was just having fun with a kid and his famous persona. But at the time I was absolutely traumatized and nobody believed my story. Not my story but a co-worker's story. Let's call her Holly. Holly was a flight attendant many years ago and on one flight Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown were in first class. Holly was going through taking drink orders and politely asked Whitney Houston if she would like something to drink but didn't get an answer. So assuming she didn't hear her, Holly asked her again if she would like something to drink. Whitney Houston looked out the window with a disgusted face in response. Bobby Brown then said to Holly, "She doesn't speak to the help." Then noted for her, "If you're flying commercial, you are not hot." I cannot fathom the level of arrogance it takes to think people are so far below you that they are not deserving of being spoken to by you. My dad has been a radio personality for over 30 years and worked in country music for over half of it. He gets to meet celebrities semi-regularly. Apparently Keith Urban was really nice. Carrie Underwood was kind of mediocre BC. He caught her right after her performance and she was tired. But Kenny Chesney puts the D&D bag. Direct quote from my dad. Kenny promised to sign some pictures, shirts, etc. for a couple of kids who won a game through the radio. Kenny instead took a bunch of groupies into one of the back rooms of the radio station with a bottle of whiskey and locked the door. When my dad tried to get him to open the door and fulfill his end of the deal, he called the cops on my dad and he was lucky enough to get a cop who was a good acquaintance. Cop said there wasn't much he could do other than make Kenny leave, so that's what he did. Kids never got their stuff signed, so my dad gave them some coupons for free pizza. He said that after a few years other radio hosts told him they had similar encounters. When my best friend was 17, she got snuck into the grand opening of the Playboy Club at the Palms. She got hit on by both a drunken Owen Wilson and a drunken James Franco that night. The difference was that when she clarified her age, Owen was like "oh never mind" and left her alone, and James was like and tried to give her his hotel room key. Diana Ross. I worked in a health club in a hotel across the street from a stadium when I was young. She came in, looked at the pool, which was a really decent lap pool, and said, "My bathtub is bigger than this." I replied, "Go back to your bathtub then." She wanted me fired instantly. HR told me to go home for 2 days because if they fired everyone she wanted fired, the hotel wouldn't have any staff. I met Russell Crowe one night at a bar, by accident. It was an old Thai, smoky dive bar. I just happened to sit down right next to him. I didn't recognize him at first, but I asked if I could bum a cigarette from him and he gave me one. That's when I knew who he was. He wasn't an a-hole. He was actually pretty nice, but I could absolutely tell he wanted to be left alone. I smoked the cigarette and left him alone. Scott Disick and Kourtney Kardashian. We met them in Cancun. They were snobby and stuck up. This was right after Mason was born. They had no interaction with Mason and the nanny did everything. They were super offended that not everyone at the airport knew who they were.